What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 424 of Opinions May Vary. I am your host, JR. As always, my co-host with me is Alex.
Hello.
I missed you. It's been a while.
It has.
We are celebrating. We're going to have a good time today, mostly because the work's already done. Alex has been doing his year. Okay, anniversary episode. We're celebrating year 9. We've been doing this for a little while, and the last every year, Alex has put together a medley, which we're going to get to in a couple minutes. But that's what I mean when I say the work's already done. I mean that Alex has been sitting at his computer for hours upon hours, listening to all of our episodes over the last year and pulling the kind of like the best snippet, not necessarily the best, but like the most fun, the whatever, what have you. Snippets from.
They've gotten better over the years because it's changed. In like I also 5 years ago, they were a lot shorter because they were just a random joke, we might say, that we would all laugh at because we're friends and we get the inside joke anyway. And now we're talking to like more important people who run massive charities. And it's like, well, I should give them the full 3 minutes to describe what they do instead of try and find a 27-second joke. So that's also things have changed.
It's also the quality of the guests have gone up, and I don't know. I feel like you've also gotten very good at putting these together. Spoiler alert, I've already listened to it. I listened to it ahead of time because the way we record the episode, we're not really doing it. Usually, I'll be sitting directly across from Alex face to face, and he'll play it for me live, and I get to sit there and listen while it's recording. But with social distancing and all that still in effect, it's a little different. And he sends it to me so we can piece it together. I've already listened to it, and I got to say, this year's is a banger. I very much enjoyed it. I thought there are a bunch of, and it happens every year with oh yeah, that was funny. I'm a funny person. And then I'm like, man, I forgot that we talked to that person. I forgot how good that episode was. And it speaks to both your ability to put these together and also the caliber of the people that we're talking to. Because again, and I say it every episode, this show has afforded us the luxury of talking to some of the raddest people. And I guess this is just kind of a celebration of that.
Yeah.
And I always enjoy these episodes. And the amount, I try to say it every year, but goddamn dude, the amount of work you put into this stuff, going back and listening to, and I'm going to have that in my statistics, the amount of content that we put out, which, admittedly is less than in years past because we started doing every, bi-monthly or semi-monthly, whatever you want to say, instead of weekly.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it takes a lot to sit there and because you can't just ignore it. If you're listening for the best snippets and stuff, you gotta have attention span, pull it. It's a lot of work. And you're not getting, no one's paying you.
No.
But so again, thank you for doing this. It was a banger. I really enjoyed this year's. We're going to get to it in a couple minutes, but it's a very enjoyable one.
Thanks. It's I feel it's something that we both contributed to over the last 52 weeks. So I don't feel like I should be taking credit.
Honestly, though, I'm just going to repeat myself. It's a lot of work. I applaud you. It's very difficult to sometimes get the motivation to do stuff when there's the payoff isn't making a shitload of money
mm-hmm.
or accolades and blah, blah, blah. So it's very much appreciated.
While we're doing this, it's my turn to point out that I feel you've come a long way, and that's why the best of opens and closes with you, because the way you've managed to word things, and I'm not the best speaker, as if any of our listeners can tell, and so you did such a great job over everyone we talked to, and the confidence that the two of us had going into being on someone else's show with IRCB, and that turned out really well. And I was glad you were there with me. So
you made me cry. I think we've made a good duo over the last 9 years. And we eventually figured it out. We got there. It took a while, but we got there. We should get to this medley because it's a lot of fun. It's longer than in years past because the clips are juicy, or they warrant being longer. So I hope everyone enjoys what Alex has put together. Big thank you to everyone who is a part of it and helped make it a thing. But I guess we should stop delaying. We're going to get to the medley. Everyone enjoy. I want to talk about podcasting first, though, because I do feel like it has been something to keep us busy. We still have had amazing opportunities to talk with really neat people despite all of this. There's a lot going on right now. So the fact that people are even acknowledging us and saying, yeah, sure, I'll give you some of my time, I think is huge. It would be really easy to just say, there's just a lot going on right now. I'm not interested. But you've still managed to find people who are not only interesting, but also a lot of fun, have really neat things to say. And that it's been, I don't even think I really understood how much of a help it's been. And I do love that this has kind of sparked people to be creative.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a new episode of Local Co-op out of this. The legendary Local Co-op podcast, which was run by Colin, Zach, and Ken, all former guests. The first episode of Local Co-op, I believe, was recorded in the OMV studio.
I believe so, yeah.
We got a new episode of Local Co-op during the pandemic. They talked about the Final Fantasy VII remake. It was just Zach and Ken, but it was a breath of fresh air. It was fun to listen to. If we don't get any more, at least we got the one. But I am all for, and there are a lot of snarky tweets. People love the snark on the Twitter. It's like a snark machine. I'm all for it. I'm guilty of it. But there are a lot of snarky things like at the beginning of all this where people were like, I assure you that, that podcast you're thinking about starting is the wrong idea.
Don't do it.
And I'm like, nah, man, do it. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Like, make the thing, like the Jamie Noguchi system,
Yeah.
Do the thing. Just do it.
Just do
Why
it.
not? What's the worst that can happen is, I started a podcast once, whatever, it didn't work out. Maybe you're stuck with some sound equipment then.
It's sort of timeless. I think it's one of those classic comic book stories that might not get talked about as much these days.
One thing that's really fun about this and being separate is Alex and I have no idea who's going to take the next question.
Oh, sorry.
So no, because usually we can see each other. We're sitting across from each other. So I can see if he's coming up to the mic getting ready to go, or he can see if I have something chambered. And right now we're in the dark. So Alex and I get to play a fun game of trying not to interrupt each other.
Who's talking next?
Well, I don't think anybody can forgive you. I mean, can hold it against you for...
Okay. Scott or Alex Summers?
How dare you, first off. Scott. It's insufferable dweebs, so I don't even know. I'm just gonna go with the more insufferable one, which is Alex, I guess.
That's true.
That's fair.
Is wrestling a sport or theater? Performance. Which is it?
It's a performance.
It's a performance.
Yeah.
Okay, so then why are we allowing our actors to damage their bodies when in any other performance, acting, anything like that, we would absolutely stop that from happening?
Because I didn't expect you to go here. So
how long have you been a part of the Omegathon since the beginning, or is that something that you've come into
Since the
later
very
on?
beginning.
Nope.
So I was at the time in 2004 was a teacher. I was helping out at the show and friends with Mike and Jerry. And when they went to run the very first round, they were, internet comic guys who had no crowd management or anything like that. And as a teacher, saw my friends kind of struggling and stepped in and went, hey, let me manage all the people. You guys back over here, you guys over there. You two run the games. That's fine. I'll manage the crowds.
Fake Theme Park is celebrating its 10-year anniversary, so I believe some congratulations are in order.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So congratulations. Now, I'm not even sure where to kind of get started with this, but I got it. Like 10 years, it is not easy to maintain stuff. Like we've been doing this show for 8 years, and sometimes it is just like, holy God, where did the time go? But 10 years, that is a feat, especially staying fresh and creative, because it is really easy to just fall back into the same jokes and or just give up. You know what? I've done my thing. I've said all I need to say. I guess I'm good. But and we're gonna get into this a little bit.
Giving up is so easy to do too.
It's so easy, so easy.
What are you guys trying to say?
No.
Final episode of Opinions May Vary on Bond.
Oh no.
Well, we had a good run.
For me, it's like a cue to kind of okay, let's research, really get in the heads of the people that are going to like this potentially or already, and kind of learn from it and grow as a designer. And because my philosophy with work is the more jobs that can make you grow, the better off you're going to be. I call it paid to practice. Which essentially every job, as an artist, every job is preparing you for the next job or a job that's 5 years down the line. In that if you are put into a job that's so far outside your comfort zone or sensibilities, more often than not, it's going to make you better and a better contributor down the line. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I never shut up about Chew, ever. It was my favorite book. I loved it. It was one of the first books that when I first started reading comics, it was a #1 and there was a lot of hype around it. And I was like, I want to read this. And it would turn into my favorite thing. Big fan of that book. Absolutely love it. So when the Chew-niverse, if you want to call it that.
All right, that's it. We're done.
Yeah, that's the end of the show. Thank you so much, guys, for
We
being
have
on.
a really strict pun rule policy on this show.
Oh, that's
It's
too bad.
one strike. It's literally it's one strike.
And that's it. There's zero tolerance. I mean, it makes sense. I don't blame you. I'm pretty mad at myself for it.
Yeah.
I'm
But
proud.
Don't worry, we are
when it
too.
was when it was announced that more Chew was going to be happening, I was pretty psyched. Layman has been kind of writing a lot of Chew stuff into his other books, like Outer Darkness had the Chew crossover.
Rest in
Best
peace.
layman book. Best layman book.
Dude, right?
Yeah.
And then Image just nixes it out of nowhere.
Well, it's Skybound. Oh man, we're gonna talk about this in the break. Yeah.
Helping those kids build confidence, build frustration tolerance, help them see themselves for more than what they or what the world tells them that they are. So one of the main orientations we take towards that is looking at the characters they play and what they want to get out of that character. So, talk about myself as a young person, we could probably guess from a million miles away why I might choose a charismatic monk as the character I would play because of my sort of presenting challenges. And in the groups that we run for kids, we don't do a lot of overt tell me about the problems going on in your life kind of work. We do a lot of sort of Mr. Miyagi style figuring out what their challenges are, and we do a lot of phone calls with parents and things like that too. But so a lot of our work is oriented towards helping the young person grow through their character.
But I mean, even Kim Jong-gi, I'm sure he sucked at one point, right?
Right.
That's one of those things, right? You guys say you have no talent, and I want to move away from that concept, right? It's not necessarily talent, it's I want to replace that with skill, because skill is something you can develop over time. Talent just feels like you were born with it, right?
Right.
And it's like, sure, maybe I was born with an affinity for drawing, in that I liked it, in that I was kind of good at it. My hand-eye coordination was there. But I mean, I think back to like when I first graduated from art school and I couldn't get any jobs. My skills just were not up to par. And that's not, if that's talent, I would have stopped right there. That would have been the end of it. But since it's a skill, if you think of art as a skill, as something that you can develop over time, then you know that you have to work at it and get better, and that you can improve, and that your work will improve along with you, right? Well, that's a stupid way to say it. Of course your work will improve along with you.
I mean, it's true. It's not wrong.
Yeah. But you get the idea, right?
Yeah.
You have to.
Absolutely.
I want to move the idea of talented artists away from saying that they're talented and saying, wow, you're so fucking skilled, man.
And sometimes we just can't help it, and we tend to gush. And this is going to be a tough one for me not to get kind of pathetic with. I'm pretty excited, man. Your books have been some of my favorite things over the last like 5 years or so, and it's just continuing on and on. So this is gonna be, I can't even explain, dude. I'm gonna kick it right off with just being pathetic.
Let's get there. Let's go there.
Right? So, like,
he's always had soft birthday parties, and he was asking for not to have a soft birthday party.
Oh no, they just keep Yeah, it was a panel of 3. It was Katie, it was Wayne, and it was Squirrely Dan. Even though he's been friends with them since they were kids, has never experienced a soft birthday. I guess he was our audience replacement.
I feel like that's the like, why are 2 cops explaining what a law is to each other?
Yeah.
I have to blame it on a post I saw on Facebook where all it said was, imagine a haunted house where half of it is just a hallway that leads to one door that says employees only, and when you go through it, there's a man, a sweaty guy, half in a gorilla costume saying, hey, you can't be back here.
That sounds terrifying.
Scariest thing I've ever heard.
There's like long-term sickness, there's a real quick death if it's way over that 300 milligrams. And so if she really wanted some dead, she would just dump, a full rat's worth in there.
Oh my god.
Like, this enough, it was the size of a rat, let's say. Enough powder.
That's the most horrific unit of measure I have ever heard. Especially because we're talking about such a vile poison. How much in there? Oh, just, like whole rat's worth.
No,
not enough to kill a rat. No. The size of a rat. By the way, read Wonder Woman Dead Earth. You had mentioned in one of your videos that issue 3 is going to be amazing. And I finally got to a comic shop last week and I was able to pick it up and I read it last night. Holy shit, dude.
Can you believe they let me get away with that?
I would, like, as I was reading it, I was like, how did he pitch this? How did they said yes to this?
Oh, I know. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. You know what's so funny is the big point of contention with that book was the punch through the chest. Spoiler alert, sorry.
Spoilers,
everybody.
by the way.
Yeah.
Started out as we wanted to be like the news podcast. We're essentially gonna take all the articles from Bleeding Cool that we can find and we're gonna talk about them.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh too much. We definitely tried to do that in our early days too.
Yeah, you guys get it.
But he opens with, oh, it's mostly gamers on Reddit, and they like games, so they like GameStop. So they want to support GameStop. And I'm like, no.
That couldn't be more wrong.
That's so cool. That's awesome. Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
And we were trying to remember, we think that was the first Boston Comic-Con.
Oh, memories.
Yeah.
That we went to. I think it was the first one that we went to, but I think that was the second
Was that
ever.
was that the basement one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yes, I remember that fondly. It was very fun. I was scared to death.
Yeah, I mean, fire code was being enforced a little bit, at least.
This far from just being like, oh, well, we raised some money and gave it to a hospital. We collected some games for, that was donated and we gave it to the point of involving research and figuring out how to help people and kids aside from just, amusing them for a while. It's like, no, this will seriously help them. And even one of the videos was like, when the kids are playing certain games, like they don't need as many painkillers or narcotics because they're distracted or their attention is elsewhere. It's such a huge step to take as for a charity organization like that.
Yeah, it's been, for the first 13 years or so, Child's Play really was in just the role of providing the games and getting them there. And in 2015, we started doing visits to our partner hospitals. And one of the things we noticed was games and technology, things like iPads, were more prevalent inside the hospital than, back in 2003 when this started. But we still ran into the staff not really, not identifying as gamers and letting us know sometimes, hey, all of our Xboxes are broken. And really what probably happened was all the controllers, the controller from room 1 ended up in room 5 and the room 4 was in room 2. And they don't work because they're not paired and they didn't know how to pair them. Mm-hmm. And same thing with the games that they were giving. A lot of AAA title games, which are the games that kids initially want to play, are great games if what you're looking to do is reduce a pain score. A game like a Fortnite or Rocket League or things like that are games that have that engagement and distraction and can really do that reduction of pain score. But like I mentioned, those can kind of hype up anxiety. And if you're really nervous about a surgery you're going into, you don't want that kid playing a game that can get them kind of hyped up that way. And if you don't know better, you just give them a game that they want, right? Like, I want to play Madden. That's what I know. I want to take that game. Mm-hmm. But if you have the tools and that knowledge, you can go, yeah, I know you'd really like that, but hey, when we're done, let's play that game. But as we go ahead, let's just use this game. And one of the things that we have is games that are recommended. So we cover, we're system agnostic, right? Our therapeutic game guide looks at Xbox and PlayStation and Switch and PS4 VR, but it also has iOS and Android games. And those tablet games are a great way to get a kid who's not necessarily stoked about playing a game that isn't a big AAA game that they've seen a commercial for, to try out a game and understand, like, well, yeah, we're going to have you play this ahead of time right now. We're going to end up wheeling you around. So playing on the iPad is going to be a little bit better. Right. And play that game that can sort of reduce their anxiety, but also now have that connection point when you come back later and say, remember that game that we played earlier? Here's one like it on the Xbox. We should try that one out. And it's a little bit easier to make that transition from playing on a mobile platform to playing on a console, to a title that they might not know and a kid might not be super excited to play for or play with. And the guide helps child life make intelligent choices when they're suggesting games.
And I have a YouTube channel, which a couple years ago I started posting accompaniment videos for people to practice with, primarily classical music and music theater and that type of thing. And when the pandemic started in 2020, I realized, I really need to kick this into high gear because people are really going to need this now more than ever. So I started doing that in just super speed mode, learning as much as I could, posting as many videos as I could. And then I saw the grant.
The other games rounding out the four are Killer Instinct, Skullgirls, Second Encore, and Them's Fightin' Herds.
Alex, do you know what Them's Fightin' Herds is?
No idea.
Ken, tell Alex what Them's Fightin' Herds is.
So I'm not going to profess to be any expert. I can't go into great detail, but Them's Fightin' Herds is a fighting game featuring the characters of My Little Pony.
Whoa, okay. I heard about this. This game was supposed to be in EVO like 3 or 4 years ago, and My Little Pony waited until at the last minute to say no.
Yeah. Well, in my neighborhood when I was growing up as a kid, it was the weirdest thing, and I'm sure you guys have seen it too, because it's not just my neighborhood. Like I've seen it like elsewhere, in the world. But if you say you want to do anything, right? Like you say you want to be city dog catcher, someone's gonna tell you it's too hard.
Yeah,
someone
absolutely.
like, oh, you're gonna need a permit, or you're gonna need to get you're gonna take a class to become city dog catcher. You gotta the dogs are gonna growl at you. Yeah, like there's always someone who immediately tells you what is wrong with the desire, right? They're not trying to help you formulate a plan. They're not trying to help you see the benefits of your vision. But they immediately are coming down with something that's telling you why it won't work. And so I very quickly just started, when people would start in with that, I was like, oh yeah, okay, right, all right, cool. Then I just go do it anyway. Because they're not going to be there when you're doing it, because they're already back here in the land of no, right? Of the land of it can't be done, And okay, that's okay. I won't be there, That's not where I am.
But I've had friends who say we're a show for the every nerd, because we'll do comic book content, we'll do video game content, we'll do cosplayers, we'll do artists and steampunk shows. So we cover a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've combed through some of your backlog of episodes, and you guys cover a lot. Like I thought that sometimes just comics is a lot. You guys go like 150% beyond that. That's incredible. I don't know how you manage all of it. I have so many questions about just how you stay sane with a show this big, especially for 8 years. Like that's super impressive.
I think it's probably 5 or 6 years old now. I was doing Comic-Cons as a 2D artist and like just trying to figure it all out. And it's another one of those things where it's like you start digging down into the rabbit hole and you keep chasing these ideas that you're not really sure that are working. Like I would do fan art of like, Poison Ivy or something like that. And it was just like, it felt really disingenuous and I wasn't really enjoying doing it. And when you go to a Comic-Con, 800 other people have the exact same thing. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like I want to get my work out there. I want to make art and have people enjoy it, but I don't want them to like my version of Batman. Like I don't care about that. I don't know why I'm chasing it. And so I had this idea that like I was just gonna paint like creatures from like myths or legends or mythology, any of that kind of stuff. That was what I enjoyed doing, and like that was what I had fun with. And so my wife was like, oh, like how cool would it be to do a Kraken? Like you should do that. And I was like, that's a really good idea. So I sat down and I started drawing it, and it came together pretty easily. Like I painted it, and usually for me, like I'll paint something and then I'll paint over it, and then I'll paint over it, and then I'll paint over it, and like the fourth iteration is like, all right, I'm done. It came together pretty quickly, pretty easily, and from the first time we had it at a show, people were like, I love that, that's super cool. And almost at every show we do where we sell prints, it's our top selling print. It's pretty overwhelmingly in favor of that one. And the other funny little piece of information on that is that like for whatever reason, like people would start to tell us where they were going to put it. And we started keeping this like tally.
Nice.
And it's like 70% of the people that buy this print put it in their bathroom.
Yeah.
We're
yeah.
like, oh, I guess we make bathroom art. That's fine.
As soon as you said that, I was like, it's going to the bathroom. It's
yeah. So for whatever reason, like a lot of people have octopus bathrooms.
It's a water theme.
And they needed that for their decoration. And I'm okay with that.
Like I was looking over your YouTube and trying to, get ready for this. And your YouTube has been active for, at least according to this site, 10 years now.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this for quite some time.
I would not recommend looking at those 10-year-old videos, though. They are very bad.
We understand.
I mean,
don't listen to our episodes from 8 years ago.
Yeah. Yep. Maybe don't even listen to like last year's. Just listen to like this one.
your conversation on alligators and things coming out too fast and things getting broken and wrecking stuff when they're not working properly reminded me of a radio call that I got from one of my techs where he said, "Hey, the Slayer demon's arm got stuck behind the wall and now he's just punching the house down." To which I just replied, "Well, shut him off." Like, why are you watching? But I got there and he had actually punched a wall down. So,
that's we all know Slayer. Slayer was the giant. If it's the Slayer that I'm thinking of,
it's in the same family, but not that particular one. Yeah, this one would lift up the ceiling. Like there was a ceiling over the room, and he would lift it up, and he would reach in over to like kind of grab at Guess, and then pull his arm back out and put the ceiling back down.
Oh, cool.
But he got stuck behind it. So when his arm started to go forward, he was just punching the wall that it was behind.
Okay.
So it was terrifying when guests were going through because the wall was really coming at them. But
at what point did you decide that you need to venture out and introduce your theories and these ideas and these questions to audiences with panels? Was that something you were doing that you had minds for before you started Game to Grow, or was that like, now we have this organization, now we're better suited to engaging the audience more?
So back in with the Wheelhouse Workshop days, we started that organization in 2013, and then our first panel presence was 2015, I think. And it was actually sort of a random. It was a shot in the dark. I submitted to Emerald City Comic Con here in Seattle, and actually submitted some people's names on the panel without actually telling them that I did it, because I didn't think we'd get in. So I just shot in the dark. Submitted a panel submission, and we got it. And actually, one of my friends on the panel flew from Kansas to join us on the panel, and I was like, "I'm good news and bad news. Good news is I submitted your name and we got accepted. Bad news is you have to fly to Seattle to be on this panel." So that was fun. She had a good time being on the panel with me. But so that was kind of how it started. Was just kind of random.
Still the same situation that I'm in, where I was gonna make these things anyway. It's just a matter of whether or not anybody's gonna pay me for them. So,
do you feel that's like a good piece of advice for people who, if you want to create, then just create it for yourself? You don't always have to create for other people.
I think that's always a good bit of advice, but it's not necessarily practical for a lot of people. There's people that have been making comics for years and years, like decades, and it is their source of income. And if you have a family and you've been doing this for 30 years, it's not realistic to say, "Hey, make these comics for yourself, buddy." It's kind of talking down. It's sort of naive, but at the same time, it is about creatively finding what makes you happy. Now, I mean, a lot of people, and I'm certainly guilty of this, I get a job that I don't really care that much about, but it pays. And I'm still making comics, but it's not my favorite thing in the world, but you got to pay the bills.
Yeah, and that's great use of power, to seeing a woman be strong in a sexual relationship with having two idiot bimbos. Yeah, there are times when it does good stuff. And there are times when it tries to do good stuff that you're like, oh yeah, no, you missed it a little bit. Like having Squirrely Dan give us all of the information that his women's rights teacher tells him is cute. You get to see Squirrely Dan be kind of woke, but ultimately, we're hearing all of this women's rights information from a white male character, and you're just like, oh, fuck.
More than he's supposed to.
Oh yeah.
Was there a lawsuit there?
No, not at all.
Why not?
Uh-huh.
That's the pressure of okay, he files a lawsuit, he's kicked out, and now people want The Rock to run for president when he assaulted a man on camera.
Let me go back to some other stuff.
That's devastating to my argument. I'm not going to.
like wooden barn doors, or like non-conventional.
Exposed beams.
Like, yeah, exactly. The studs on the inside. Like what the fuck is happening? But it's like, I kind of just went with the flow, and then in the world of marketing, it's like if you don't evolve, you don't survive. So it's very much like that. So the whole premise of it came from Rooster Teeth, red versus blue, achievement hunter, very like homebrew video game type content, and from their tiny little YouTube series of Halo comes this multi-million-dollar company that tours every couple of months now, and they do RTX out in Texas, and it's just crazy because all they needed was a space and a bunch of fucking funny, chill dudes that could work together. So
especially when you're doing it for so long, keeping it fresh, but you've managed to do it in spades. Even just looking at the most recent one hits double. In 2021, we're opening Steampunk Land. Just one question: what is steampunk? Which, coming from, we're fans of steampunk. We've been to steampunk shows in the past. One of the first shows we ever covered was a steampunk show. And even having been to these shows and spending hours and hours and days, I can't answer that question.
And also, like, no two steampunks are going to answer that the same way either.
Yeah, they got a lot of responses. That was it was meant to be. No offense, fans, just a joke. It was not an actual question. It was a rhetorical question, and people have responded. Sometimes, honestly, and often with a joke. Someone said steampunk is when goths discover the color brown.
Yep.
Hey man, that joke lives in my thread. You just gave that to me. So yeah, it's fun to have people interact. I'm happy to do that. So occasionally we'll even ask questions or do polls, which you can do on both social accounts, and see what people, have to get a chance to interact rather than just listen to the joke and hit like or retweet, more usefully for me. Out there, likes are great. Retweets are even better, everyone. That's coming from a Twitter aficionado. So yeah, it's a joke like that. You can ask a question and get responses. Something as simple as that. No lists, not 280 characters, just 2 sentences, one of which isn't funny. The first one is basically, could be a real park doing this. I'm just waiting for it to happen. And the second sentence is a punchline.
Dragon Ball Fighters might reveal some new content. They actually have a new character coming out to actually today, as we're recording this. New character coming out. Don't laugh at me when I say new character. It's Goku. I told you not to laugh.
What version of Goku?
It is Ultra Instinct Goku, who is a form of Goku that appeared in Dragon Ball Super, the most recent iteration of the Dragon Ball franchise. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's another form of Goku. Look, I don't know what to tell you. That's Dragon Ball, baby. Like,
I'm all for it.
Okay. Grant Morrison, Insane Madman, or Brilliant Genius?
Oh, the answer that you didn't have on there is
Insane Genius?
Perfect Wizard.
The correct answer is why not both?
Yeah, I think Insane Madman.
Okay.
I'm also gonna say Insane Madman. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think right now he's more in that camp. Yes.
Then because that show's just so damn good.
I'm gonna get a little off topic for a sec.
Do it.
The other day I had a bit of a rant because between knowing Umbrella Academy was coming out and other comic shows that have been good, and then I think about comic shows that haven't been as good, and there's things that are in common between the two, and it's whether or not Jeff Loeb is producing them. Like, just because you have a comic property, you do not have to hire Jeff Loeb on as a writer or associate producer. You don't have to. You can get by without him. You'll be fine. You can make a good show. Lock and Key was proven. Lock and Key was fantastic. Umbrella Academy has been great. Runaways, oh, whoops, that hasn't been all that good. It's maybe you don't always need Jeff Loeb involved. I like a lot of the guys writing in comics. His colors books with Tim Sale and his Batman stuff. He has a lot of good stuff, but not all of it's great. And maybe you could just give him a break. You don't have to hire him for your comic show. There's other people out there.
The rules, quote unquote, be damned. You know, it's just it needs, if it's gonna run long, it's gonna run long. That's what it is. You know, I doubt fans are gonna be upset for more content.
Exactly. Yeah, and like the readers are who he had in mind. We just wanted. If you can tell when someone cares about their book, like you could tell when it's just, you know, it's oh yeah, it's just product for the shelf, but you can really tell when creators care. So and you can't you know, manufacture that. Like it's there or it's not.
I think about why I hate shows written by Aaron Sorkin, where all the characters are so perfect and all the dialogue is so punchy, and that's like an uncanny valley of humanism where I'm like, no, you know what? Like maybe they should be flawed a little bit, you know?
I gotta look up what shows he's done.
West Wing, and you know, I think a lot of the dialogue
Social Network.
in Social Network is a great example where like
so things I've never seen.
If you've ever seen Gilmore Girls, that's another great example of like everybody always knows what cute pithy fucking thing to say no matter what.
God, that's so true. Did Aaron Sorkin do Gilmore Girls?
He didn't, but it's the like female equivalent. So when people haven't seen his stuff, I use that as the other example.
Right.
Actually, I don't know who the fuck did Gilmore Girls. I don't know that.
Yeah,
I get exactly, because while the stuff that I've seen from Aaron, because did Aaron Sorkin do Newsroom too? I think that was his.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that I have seen by him, like I enjoy it for the most part very much. My wife and I did West Wing a couple years ago, and then Social Network's been one of my favorite movies for a while now. It's just on Netflix too. But I totally get what you mean. Like, if only arguments and discussions ever went that perfectly, and everyone had those beautiful responses, you know, like perfectly crafted. It just doesn't happen that way.
It's the Palladino. I think they're married. Amy Sherman Palladino wrote that, and also did Marvelous Miss Maisel, which is another wonderful example of like, well, I wish we all were that cute.
It takes me 3 days, and then I'm in a shower before I come up with something remotely half that good.
There's a word
and then your shampoo bottles get it.
Yeah, well, it's a word in French. It's called esprit d'escalier, the spirit of the staircase. That's when you're walking away down the stairs. You're like, that's what it should have said.
So when we first started presenting about this, we had, full audiences at PAX's. We were at PAX, our first PAX East. We had like 400 and something people in the room talking about that, which is on our YouTube actually. To listen to that one. But it's been a really interesting thing to really want to share. We want more people to be doing this. That's the mission of Game to Grow, is to help people around the country and around the world start using games intentionally. So we've done, trainings and consultations through teleconferencing to every continent other than Antarctica. I think the last count was like 15 countries around the world we've done video chats with to help people start their own programs, be it as small or as large as ours. It's been a really fantastic thing to see just how much and how quickly it's spreading now.
So all of a sudden you'd see there are werewolves in this area now too. Then that path would lead you to the slaughterhouse, and which would then which you'd get a lot of like your chainsaws, your blood, your pig demon type of stuff. A lot of like your boar and gore. Oh man, that's yes. Man, I should be writing these down.
I am.
I think that was a subject that we've all either dealt with, experienced, or maybe whether we knew it or not had had taken part in. I think I would be a massive liar if I said that I had never gate kept, or whatever the past tense of gatekeeping is. It's just, but I like to think that people can learn, people can grow, learn from their mistakes, whether it was intentional or not. So sitting on that panel was, especially at a time when I was already exhausted, I was like, wow, now my brain hurts because my brain's exhausted. But It was I'd highly recommend checking out a panel like something that maybe outside of your wheelhouse. Like first couple PAXs, I was like, oh yeah, I know this streamer. I'm gonna go to that panel because I know this streamer. Whereas now it's trying to branch out. So I highly recommend it. Again, all the props in the world for being able to have the stamina to even do all of that.
I really appreciate what you said about gatekeeping, though. Like, I defy anyone to say that you've never gatekept somebody else from something that you love. It's kind of a natural pull to do that sometimes, and people aren't even aware of it sometimes.
Right.
But to be able to have open discussions about the concept, how to see it coming in the distance, how to know when you're engaging in it, and normalizing it, and not putting a bunch of shame around the fact that like humans might be naturally inclined to do that, I think was really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there are other times where it's like, wow, I've come so far. This is the worst drawing I've ever done. But it's kind of a double whammy, which is hopefully something the YouTube channel is highlighting, especially with those videos, is like, another reason that like I have these sketchbooks and I keep adding to them is that as the years go on, it is like a really great lesson that I need to keep learning, because I always forget, is just how far I truly have come, like as an artist, because when I do look at that stuff, I'm like, this is so embarrassing. There were a few drawings in there that were so bad I actually had to edit them out. I was like, no, this cannot stand. I will not do this. So like this only like it was only 1 or 2 drawings, so I did edit it a little bit, but like, when you see those, you're like, man, if I were to draw that again now, like, man. And I can see, like, if I were to draw a like muscly person back in whatever 2006, or when I draw those things, I can see like different muscle groups that like I just kind of faked because I didn't know how to draw them. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, I almost want to go back in and like fill it in with like the correct proportions.
just so you have the peace of mind.
Yeah, like for the longest time, like I did not learn this till like 2 months ago. The way that like when a person like if a big muscular person like Arnold Schwarzenegger stretches his arms out so that like you can show off his wingspan, the muscle that goes from like underneath the armpit that connects to like the bottom part of the bicep, I didn't know how the heck to do that. I didn't know it existed. I would just like fake it every time. I'd like put in like armpit hair or whatever. That was like the way I did that. Now I know, but
whatever works.
Yeah, well, and like it's just it's an ever ongoing process, a forever evolution.
You asked me if my main thing was WWE or wrestling in general, and I'm not against, like, I'm not saying stop all wrestling. I'm saying the WWE should be, all of their money should be taken away from them, and Vince McMahon should die in a gutter. For everything he has done against the wrestlers, against their health, that him and Linda McMahon need to be sued beyond belief.
I've had people comment on some of my other videos, like when I perform a piece by Bach, for example. They'll be like, "Oh, I can't believe you're playing a Bach piece on a digital piano." I'm like, well, he didn't even write for piano. He wrote for harpsichord and organ, so it's already sacrilegious. Sorry. But no, I've never had anyone say that I have to play on a real piano.
Right.
It's just, I find it much easier to record digitally because then I don't have to worry about microphones or background noise or any of that stuff. I can just record directly into my computer.
It just cuts out so much of the like middleman and all that nonsense.
I just learned something about
what's that?
That Bach didn't write for piano.
Yeah, it wasn't. It hadn't been invented yet.
Harpsichord's wild.
Yeah, I love harpsichord.
It's somehow soothing, but also it's the craziest instrument. Like I've never actually played one. I've only ever heard one. I've never had the opportunity to get in front of one, but they are wild. Is there a difference between playing harpsichord and piano?
It's very different because the strings are plucked rather than being struck by a hammer. Right. So there is no difference in dynamics. It doesn't matter how hard you press the key on a harpsichord, the volume will always be the same. So it's closer to playing like one of those keyboards that have no weight to them.
Right. We've been trying to line up. There's going to be a Kickstarter launching in a couple weeks, and
couple days,
and it should be a lot of fun. Sure. Couple days. Excuse me. The timing is perfect. I know exactly what I'm doing. Alex and I even talked about this beforehand, but I forgot it already.
Realistic approach of dark dinos, like everything's dark and dreary and green and that's fine. Like, I get it. Like, we get a lot of requests. Yeah, the game's good, but can we have the dinos look realistic? I'm like, well, no, because that's not our vision, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, and that's just it. And plus, if your dinos were colored different colors, you can kind of get away with, them being the exact shape of what the dino used to be or something like that. Because when you're a two-person team, you kind of have to cut corners. So, I mean, we didn't cut any corners.
Is also hella strategic, and I don't think I realized that until it was too late, and I wound up getting annihilated by my wife. I think in the end, I believe she beat me 40-27.
Wow, dude.
It was pretty brutal. I'm not gonna lie.
There's nothing like a lot of play testing. That's a pretty brutal defeat there. But keep going.
I will say, there's nothing like a good spanking to make you motivated to come back and win the next round.
Yeah,
that's how I learned how to play.
Is going to determine the outcome of the rest of the show.
Oh no.
Perfect.
Okay, so you're bagging and boarding your comics. Okay, you go to reach for the tape because you got to tape that bag shut.
Uh-oh.
Are you attaching that tape horizontally or vertically?
Oh, vertically. It's way easier to open the bag.
Vertically, yeah. Yeah.
Nailed
we
it.
have had discussions on what type of tape you use on our show.
I mean, let's we did a whole episode about tape.
We got
retweeted by 3M.
Retweeted by 3M.
So, I just want to add a caveat here because I don't use tape. I use pre-sealed bags.
No,
with the rip-off peelable thing because I'm a trash person apparently, but that's just me. If I have to use tape though, it is vertical always.
Yeah.
The question is it one or two pieces of tape?
Two vertical, one on each end.
I go one in the middle. If you treat it right, it won't fail you.
Okay.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Okay. We've brought a board to a convention and had people do hash marks for which way they tape their bags.
That is so smart. Holy shit, you guys are really good at this.
I will die on the horizontal tape hill. I will fight that battle for the rest of my life.
I mean, if you're planning on never opening and rereading any of your comics, I mean, I think that's a perfect. I mean, it sounds like slabbing is a big thing for. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The True Revival thing is interesting because I didn't want to do it. I was very vehement about not doing it. I thought that Revival was like this very serious thing that I didn't know how that was going to fit. And Tim is very much like anything goes, let's do whatever. And I was like, no, they don't fit together. This doesn't work. But I was wrong. I mean, it does work, and it's interesting. I should have listened to him. I should have listened to John. It was all John Layman's idea, actually. He wanted to do this crossover.
And they suspected it was Amy. It took 2 years.
Right.
2 years after his death, Andrew's body was exhumed, and he was given an autopsy to find enough arsenic to kill several men.
And I don't know how arsenic, if it dissolves or if it just kind of hangs out there, but if there was a degradation and 2 years later there was still enough arsenic to kill several men in his system still, that's a lot of arsenic.
Beyond that, how do you guys function with that, with episodes where it's just the two of you?
it's kind of how we're feeling. It also highly depends on, like, we call the episodes where it's just the two of us. And I'm sorry, I know I hit my pun limit.
It's my turn. It's my turn. We call it our Justice episodes because it's just us.
Okay, that's one.
Well, it looks like our show is just about to become just us because
there's even a sticker. We recently had OMVpodcast.bigcartel.com, by the way.
Was that like a weird switch to make, or had you already had that separated pretty easily?
It was a very refreshing switch, because like with Tartarus, it's built very much like it's very kind of structured and like it's built like a machine a bit, with like lots of space for the artist to infuse a lot of life, but like the scripting for that is built in a very kind of orderly way so that we can get all the information that we need to get in there in a way that reads sensibly. But Crema was much more, it had, definitely had quite a bit of structure, but it was much more, you're building for emotion, instead of, there are scenes where like, there's ghostly hauntings where you get that emotional impact through the visual of something cool happening. But but for the most part, you're going to get most of your emotional impact through the character interaction. So it was like a really nice way of building that, that emotional world building of having the characters interaction build the scene instead of going into like have like the visuals build the scene. So it was fun. It was like a really fun way to bounce back and forth, where I can get like writing Crema was like having like a warm cup of coffee or warm beverage, So it just kind of like, it was like a slower pace. It was much more smooth. Like the writing process was, I would go to cafes and I would like listen to chatter, and I would write, and I would just kind of contemplate life and stuff. And with Tartarus, it's much more like hair pulling and and trying, okay, how are we going to do this and how are we going to build that? Okay, we're going to, it's much more like a timed puzzle or something,
And it's sort of funny because you're talking about, I didn't know these cartoons were designed to sell us toys. I'll tell you something.
I had no idea.
I knew they were there to sell me toys, and I loved it. I gotta swear, I fucking loved it, man. I loved it because you could be part of the narrative. Like, you could watch the cartoon and then kind of see how all the characters interacted and all their powers and stuff, and then you could have your own adventures. It was like fan fiction for the illiterate. Just because you're a little kid and you're making up your own stories and you're part of the whole show. And
Enfield, that's where we live. Emerald City, is always on the bucket list. So maybe we'll be able to get out there someday and see even more of it in person. But
yeah, let me know if you come out here. We'll take you to coffee and salmon and all the good Seattle treats.
All the things that apparently are amazing.
Yeah.
Then when I have to draw things like a like a specific kind of tank or whatever for maybe a commission, I will definitely look it up, and I'll try and find like a model of it on Google SketchUp on my iPad, and I treat it like if I had a toy that I could like spin around. So I'll have it to my left, and I'll be just looking at it and spinning it around and then just drawing it by eye from the angle that I want on the paper. And honestly, I remember there was a writer I was talking to who was like, why don't you just like put it in Photoshop and drop it in and ink over it? And I was like, because then it looks too good. And I want to, it builds my visual, like that library that I mentioned, like this visual library. It's like, now, man, I can draw an M1 Abrams tank, basically from memory. I don't know how far that's going to get me in life, but,
Yeah, it seemed unnecessary. It was kind of like just milking it out for something else.
Yeah, it's just like 10 minutes of,
hey, is this voice annoying? Because you're gonna have to listen to this, but with like 4 other people doing the same thing, and
I'm already annoyed.
You don't like that? You don't like it when someone just does a different voice for some reason? You don't like it when someone just does a mildly different voice to be a brand new character that's not enjoyable? Oh, how about that? Interesting.
I somehow feel like this is a Last of Us reference and I don't understand.
That's who Shorzy is. It's just Jared doing another voice.
No, he's not doing the fake high-pitched lisp. He's just raising his voice and giving it a slight accent.
It's just as bad.
I think my favorite thing about Shorzy is his amazing capacity to skate very well, but for the purpose of douchery.
Yeah.
Like, God, that's some amazing skating in later episodes. Such an asshole.
To go like 4 steps and then snow somebody, it is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that was great. I love when he snows people.
Are there any I'll say classes or seminars that teach artists how to price their own work? Because
actually, yes.
Good.
I'll find it later and link you guys. But there's a really great channel on YouTube called The Future, spelled Futur, and they're not really like illustration or concept art or anything. They're a graphic design company, but they have really great like lectures and seminars on how to price your art, how to value your art, how to value yourself as an artist. And yeah, I actually learned a lot from those videos, because like that whole spiel I gave about how it's very hard to quantify and place a value on art is taken from those videos. He has a much better way of breaking it down than I do, so I would highly recommend watching those. But it's the concept is the same, right? It's you have to make some kind of decision about how much you think you're worth, and then you have to get people to agree to it, which is the difficult thing.
There's a subreddit called Ate the Onion, which is a reference to The Onion, which is a satire website. There's a lot of satire sites like Hard Times, The Onion, and all that stuff. And there's a whole subreddit called Ate the Onion, which is like screenshots mostly of like comment sections, retweets, things like that, of people who mistook satire for something legitimate or like real news. And they say like, oh, such and such ate the onion. They believed this article about whatever, Have you ever had someone eat the onion when it comes to your content? Has someone have you ever experienced that?
I not quite the same way. One thing, that the name is there. Well, if you see any, the name is fake theme park. It isn't like a fictional. I've been asked that a million times. Why don't you just call it Happy Land? It was back when everything was fake. When people had Twitter accounts, it was fake fill in the blank. And there's still some of those. They're still around. If your fake politician's name, something like that, fake, KFC PR or something like that. So it's always been, that has no name. It's never been named. It's not even clear where it is. Somewhere in America, but the county's made up, or the freeway it's on is made up. I went to a lot of trouble with this boy. So to answer your question, so the fact that it's fake is in the title. People occasionally just say back to me, doing a joke, and their reply, basically Disney right now. Like, yep, that's Disney. Like, yes, that's what I do. I'm making fun of theme parks. So I don't know exactly who you're trying to tell me. I don't know. I don't understand that. Obviously, every reply is valued. Please feel free to reply to me. Don't be shy. But I do wonder about things like that are just sort of saying back to me, not like, "Oh, you nailed it," just like basically Disney. Yes, I got the joke from Disney, and that was the whole point. That's as close as I've come to that. But hopefully, if I can. Also, I think that humor is not quite as subtle, if I can say that. Mm-hmm. The Onion is great. I'm a huge fan, but these jokes hopefully are out there, and you get it. A lot of exclamation points as well. I'm trying to mimic that happy demeanor and persona of the theme parks. So hopefully, within all those things, you understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like, is there already buzz about there being a lot more players, or people that never would have been able to travel to Vegas before? They could just do it from home. Will you be competing this year?
I like I said earlier, I played Mortal Kombat 11 back when it originally released, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty good at Mortal Kombat 11 and the other NetherRealm Studios games. Like, I don't know, they kind of they just click with me, and I just kind of stopped playing because I was playing other games, but I definitely have considered like booting it back up, getting some practice under my belt, and entering, because why not? But I'm also still undecided. But yes, I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of people who, EVO is a big event, but not everybody gets to go. To be completely open, Vegas is expensive, and a trip to Vegas is expensive, and not everybody can pull that. So, I think this opens the door for a lot of people to maybe get in on it, get in on the excitement, and also get in on it for games that, like I'm not going to lie, there's going to be tons of people. If you're ever worried about like, oh man, I don't want to go 0-2, I'm going to be so bad, I can guarantee you, especially with this year, there's going to be a ton of people entering a game like Them's Fighting Herds, and they've got a half an hour of playtime on it. There's no doubt that is going to happen, okay? There's going to be some people who get probably deep in their pool, and they're like, I don't even know how to play this game. So it's almost assuredly going to happen. But there's also going to be like Killer Instinct released back in 2013. So I can guarantee you that game's been out for 7 years, and the folks that play Killer Instinct are very passionate about their game, and while their game has not had a major spotlight on it, they love their game. If you come across one of those dudes who's been playing it for 7 years, you're gonna get mashed, without a doubt. But that's part of the fun. Those are the guys who, they deserve it. The guys and girls who deserve it. As Skullgirls, it's been out since 2012. And Skullgirls is Skullgirls is going to be an interesting one, because Skullgirls was developed by Mike Z, who was a pretty well-renowned Marvel vs. Capcom 2 player. He had a team that was very much his own team. It was Juggernaut, Tronbon, and Rogue. I'm pretty sure that was his team. No, it was Juggernaut, Tronbon, Doom. There we go. Juggernaut, Tronbon, Doom. That was his team, and it was entirely based off of Juggernaut had a glitch where he could make himself invulnerable all the time. I say invulnerable. He would get hyper armor all the time. So basically, like, you couldn't stop the Juggernaut, which is only making it realistic. Let's be honest.
One time, Mom was like, "Can you please get your father some earplugs, like the headphones, just the cord, so he can play his videos and listen to them himself?" He found a streaming channel that will play Hartford Dispatch for fire calls and stuff.
Huh.
Yeah. So he'll listen to that constantly sometimes if there's a big fire, and Mom won't get any peace. So sometimes she'll be able to nudge him down and be like, "Hey, put on your headphones. Just put they're red like a fire truck. Just put them on." So sometimes ask people, what do you find annoying? So how can we fix this with a present?
That is absolutely brilliant. Because it's like a present for two people. I am going to adopt that strat. Like, we should have talked about this years ago. Your approach to the holidays is methodical, and I mean, I guess I'm not surprised.
It's the only way that I know how to live life, because it's just something that has happening naturally, and then I'm trying to channel that through my stories. And I trust me, I have tried to make bullshit. I've tried to make comics that maybe you're just you're putting in the beats that a story needs. Like, okay, this character needs a drive going on a hero's journey. Like, I've tried to just make something that's in a vacuum without me, and every single time it's just falling apart because it just doesn't have the juice. And that's something that I'm not going to critique anybody, because we're all trying to make money and live our lives. But that's something I see a lot in genre fiction, is just kind of going through the motions, kind of taking the what is known to be work, like a solid C+ story, and just putting it in as a placeholder for characters that we might recognize, you know, in Marvel, DC, whatever, right? And it is always the stories that have always meant the most to me, whether it be movies, novels, comics, are when I can tell that the artist behind them is putting a part of themselves on the line. They're opening themselves up a little bit. It's just what's always resonated with me, and it's always stuck. I mean, there have been amazing films that, you know, I love, and like, you know, like all of like Tarantino movies and all those things, right? Like they're all amazing films, but it's not like when I'm on my deathbed and I'm thinking like, man, what's the best friggin' movie I've ever seen? It's not, you know, it's not going to be Reservoir Dogs. And I'm not like trying to like flex on like on Quentin Tarantino here. I love his movies, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. It's like the movies, it's like the films, the comics, the movies that have made me reflect back on my own life and like self-assess and say like, man, I'm so glad I'm alive, and I'm so glad I get to like reflect on. I don't know. It's getting very meta, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Sometimes you can tell when it's like, are you just making this in hopes that Netflix buys it? Like, is the sole purpose of making this book just like a precursor to the Netflix series? Like, come on.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that looks like a lot of different things for a lot of people and a lot of different creators. But so I don't mean to critique anybody. I just know for me, the way that I make stuff, that's where it has to come from. Otherwise, I just don't have the energy and passion to make it to the finish line.
But sky's the limit. Have you guys ever seen the terrible remake of House on Haunted Hill?
No.
Oh yeah.
With Jeffrey Rush and Chris Kattan and Famke Jensen or whatever.
Yep.
As bad as that movie is, I'm actually kind of a sucker for it, and it also scares the shit out of me. I would love to have a situation like that where I'm in control of everything from like a master like switch room and like cameras everywhere, and I can watch and like trigger stuff, because like there's one thing when we've all gone through the haunted house with all the motion sensors, and like here's a giant foam alligator that you just saw retract back into the thing, and the groups are too close together, and it's not gonna pop out at the right time. I'd want to be able to like have that like master control room at my fingertips, and in a mix of both actual actors, doing the job of like, obviously scaring people with the human aspect, but also having like ridiculous computer generated effects, holograms and all that shit, just everything that you could possibly imagine, with the push of a button. And I feel like that would be my ideal kind of haunt. Sky's the limit, man. Give me that control room. Make me God of scaring people. And that would be my ideal thing. But yeah, we get that out of the way. We got my lame.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we got my lame answers out of the way, so we can move on to more fun stuff. What were you gonna say, Brett?
No, I was gonna say, like in the last room in that house, it would literally open up, and then they would see that you were the one controlling it the entire time, and you'd be like, I can get behind that. That'd be rad.
I'd be like, rawr, that's how good I am at scaring. And I'll still have pubes glued to my face, and I'll be in a monkey suit, just living the dream.
Here. Hey, you're not supposed to be here.
That kind of stuff is fascinating to us. How stuff works, how stuff comes together, because ultimately it's got to happen.
Right.
And we just find that kind of stuff really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you're already giving me like thousands of different ideas that I'm just gonna steal from your show and be like, we're gonna have, different folks on and just crib the ideas from you guys. But no, I mean that's what makes an interesting podcast. I think going beyond, like, because at the end of the day, think about it, like there are a bunch of different comic book podcasts, just to focus it on comics really quick, but there are a bunch of podcasts out there that are talking to creators, and how did you get started, and what kind of comics do you like to draw, and what blah blah blah. But going beyond and saying, well, let's talk to the rep.
let's talk to the person that organizes the convention, because that's stuff that I don't think a lot of people know. And like they all, you know, a lot of comic fans attend conventions, or they're aware of them, if they understand like what comes out of a convention. But to say, oh, you know, you ran the main stage at New York City Comic Con, what does that mean? You know, that's really interesting stuff. So I'm glad that some podcast out there is doing that, because that's the kind of stuff that, like, I think people who want to get really in depth about, you know, organizations and stuff like that, like that's the kind of stuff they want to listen to. So I'm glad that you guys you're putting that out there for the world.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you.
We try.
But it's really great. Thank you so much for doing this.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. If anything, it made my miserable life in the basement a little lighter.
That's what we're here to do. So if any artists or creators are looking to make their miserable lives a little bit better, hit us up. We do this every other week. You know, we're here to help.
You're doing a good service.
That's what we're here for. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it. We'll let you get back to watching bad movies. And
hey, do you guys?
You heard it here.
Do you cover whether or not the guy pile drives the train in the new version like he did in the old one? Or
So that was Final Fantasy VI.
Okay.
Not to call you out, Alex. I appreciate a good train suplex reference. That was Sabin, and you could suplex the train in Final Fantasy VI. I hope they remake Final Fantasy VI one day with the same graphical fidelity that they have done so with Final Fantasy VII. And if the train suplex isn't present, I'm not buying it. All right?
We riot.
Sorry. Yeah.
Good
train
call.
suplex or we riot. That's really all I ask.
I concur.
You could just give me that. Just give me that.
As we get ready to wrap up here and wind down the episode, Johnny, we'd like to give people a minute or two. You know, we've been talking about your work a lot, but we haven't really said, aside from like Comixology and Image, where can people find your work? You know, obviously there's the comic shops with Tartarus every week, Comixology. You can take a look at Crema. As far as anything else where if people might be looking to find you, whether it's on the internet, obviously not so much appearances coming up lately, but I don't know if you're doing anything online or anything like that. Where can people go to find your work?
Well, as you said, the comic shop. Everybody support your local comic shop. You know, if you there's curbside pickup. There's all sorts of options available.
423. Wow! Congratulations, guys. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks.
That's incredible.
Get it? I don't know. It's weird. Anyways, yeah, we're just always surprised by the way people lay out their parks in ways we never would have, right?
It's really weird how. Sorry, Alex. I just want to comment on you get like tunnel vision, like I've been playing Animal Crossing. I mentioned it earlier. You have the ability to do that, which is beautiful, and then other people can take a look, and if they like it, they can dive in.
Yeah.
So
when it comes, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it the? Man,
I think it's we can get
I think the majority of us are just throwing stuff against a wall and seeing what sticks.
It seems to have. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
I don't know if there's a lot of.
All right, that is. Oh, Alex, go. It's not going to be the end of it. Alex, what do you got?
Listen to good music or true crime podcasts and see what happens.
Your turn.
Go ahead, Alex.
My
turn. That was the best one we've ever had.
Someday we'll be back in the studio together.
Oh man. I'm gonna take this one. I'm curious in that
and yeah, I guess the question I have about that is like, what's driving you still? You know, I mean, not to like be blunt or rude about it, but like every 2 weeks you guys are coming back together to keep your show going. What's got you still wanting to talk to each other after 8 years of podcasting?
So
for the longest time,
you go ahead.
We did it again. Quarantine recording, where Alex isn't directly in front of my face. For the longest time, there was a lot of pride involved. We started the show weekly, and we were doing it every single week, And we did that for 7 years straight, which is exhausting, but it's also, we could say we did it. Like, we've been putting out this show, like, and like we had a lot of people that we saw, like, I don't want to say competitors, but like people would come up and they'd say, we had this new thing too, check out our shit, and be like, oh, cool, great. And like, they've all kind of subsided. So it's like, oh yeah, we're outlasting them for whatever that means. It doesn't
successful out of spite.
Yeah, and it's just, it turned into a pride thing. Like, we've done this every single week for X amount of weeks, and it's just, we can say that we've done it. We've met some of the coolest people. We've had the opportunity, like, that we probably wouldn't have had a chance to meet had we not done the show. Or maybe we could meet them, but we talked to them for 5 minutes at their table at a Comic-Con, and then we have to bail because we're holding up the line. You know, so it's afforded us this amazing opportunity to talk with some of the coolest people, and make new friends, you know, such as this show. Like, one thing, even just doing research and looking into this episode, is right off the bat, I was like, okay, they're kind of just like us. Their format's just like us. They talk about similar things. You know, they're just talking about comics, and it was just nice, you know? So this show has afforded us an amazing opportunity to talk with a lot of unique, and just great people.
Also, press passes. That's
there we go.
That's the real answer. Okay.
All right, that was the year 9, or technically year 8. That was the medley. It was a lot of fun. I was reminded again of so many cool people that we talked with. And I was kind of reminded this anyways when I was looking over the last year of episodes. But still, like, hearing it back, I'm like, man, that was a lot of fun. We've been doing it for a year now. We'll eventually figure out how not to talk over each other when we go to ask. And like, we kind of figured it out a little bit when we hack it out in post, but like, there are some episodes where, like, I'm gonna, like, all right, I'm not gonna say a word. I'm giving the next one to Alex.
Oh yeah.
But Alex is doing the same thing to me. So we sit here in 10 seconds of silence while the guest is like, you guys still there? I was laughing very hard. I even messaged Alex when I was listening to it, because at the very end there, I was like, what is happening? Did he forget to cut this part out? And then I got the joke, because it was a mini medley of all the times that we talked over each other. And it was, oh no, you go, no, because like, we do that in person all the time, but it's even more difficult when we can't see each other's faces. But I got a very big laugh out of that. That was well done.
I couldn't not pull those, because I had thought of making like a all COVID track where we said we wouldn't talk about it, where it kind of came up when we were, you know, Sweet Summer Child, they call it, where it was March of last year, and we go, oh, this will be over by the summer, right? And here we are. It's a full year, and we're still dealing with it. And, you know, different friends or guests talking about like not being able to do conventions. And I thought like that would be a neat thing, like a section of history that we'd have to look back on and be like, here's what we thought it was going to be like. And it turned out not fun. So, so that's not a thing that we're going to post.
I'm laughing, but it's not like happy laughter. It's depressing laughter.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I saw a tweet the other day. It was like, happy anniversary to this text I sent my mom. And it was a guy who sent a text to his mom saying, yeah, working from home the next 2.5 weeks.
Anyway, so let's see. There's some things I want to get to. So in Kyle's episode, when we were talking about wrestling, I didn't realize until months later that I feel he was angling for a point to talk about, and I was not getting it, and I couldn't get there with him. I just didn't have it in my head. because he wasn't like outright saying it. And so I just wasn't following. But one of the points Kyle was making about wrestling was how when you agree to a thing and then the thing gets deliberately more dangerous, and how do they deal with that, and should anyone be held accountable? Kyle's last appearance with us was talking about extreme haunts like McCamey Manor. When you sign up to, like, you know, get teased or, you know, get scared, and the guy ends up kind of torturing you. And I'm like, was he trying to make a comparison of this being like the same kind of point? Like, should a lot of people be suing Russ McCamey even though he makes him sign a bunch of paperwork? And I didn't realize that until months and months went by. Like, was that his point? Were we going to go somewhere else with this? And I just didn't.
That was.
Go ahead.
Added to the medley. That was a tough one because we thought Kyle was going to go one way. We thought we had a preconceived, like, oh, this is going to be his argument, and it was not.
Yeah.
He went, and it was even in the clip. You were like, I wasn't expecting you to go this way.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of, any preconceived arguments were just out the window.
Yeah.
Which that episode, like, was both frustrating and hilarious. Because like, it's like, Kyle, stop destroying my argument.
Stop having such good points. Those opinions really varied that day.
Oh man, shouts to Kyle, man. Kyle Pasciuti, Decimated Designs. What a guy.
The next note that I had that I wanted to make was I've been making highlights on our Instagram page. So if you listen to the show recently and haven't listened in the past and you're curious about what we talk about, there's a few different sections in there that you could flip through and check and be like, well, we have one for all of our convention reviews. We have one for all of the artists we talk to. And I recently did one for the stickers, but I did one for all the Kickstarters. And I was like, I realized, I've never put Brett in the artist highlight, but we talked to Brett as our friend for his opinions and his knowledge of things. And we've never talked to artist Brett Kelly about his art. It's something we haven't done yet. And I feel kind of guilty. But like, we've promoted him a lot. We've hyped his page. We hype his stickers. He comes to steampunk shows with us. And then I go, oh my God, I have not put him on the artist page, but that's a resource we've been neglecting. And I don't know how I feel about that, you know?
Right.
Like, I feel he deserves more credit for everything he does with us. And and then I realized, like,
Brett is one of the sole reasons this show even exists today.
We've been on Facebook, just a few of our friends arguing over Rob Liefeld, and Brett would be saying, "It's a podcast episode, record it." We go, "Oh yeah, I guess we should." And this was before we even started.
Save that. Yeah, Brett has been invaluable, not only just as an amazing friend, but also just an absolute workhorse when it comes to helping us out and devoting his time. And again, like, it's not like we can pay him besides going and checking out his work. Brett Kelly, on Facebook and Instagram. One of the most fun episodes that we did over the last year was the team up that we did with IRCB, the I Read Comic Books podcast, which they came on our show and we chatted with them about their stuff, and then we went on their show and then did the same with their format, and tried not to look stupid, being the first time we were ever like that the tables were turned. But man, every time I'm gonna have to go back and listen to our episodes with those guys, because that was such a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
That was so fun. Like, they were just so chill. The Chuniverse stuff and the they're just fun guys. I've since
go ahead.
I was gonna say I followed. We did it twice, man. That's a juicy one. I've been following them, like, on Twitter and stuff, but, you know, like the actual I Read Comic Books handle itself, and then also Mike as well, because we're very like similar minded in terms of in a bunch of different ways. But that's one of those things where it's like I'm really glad that one happened. I'm glad that exists. We had the opportunity to talk with them because it was not only do they have a great show, but they're at least the two people that we talked to, because they have just a revolving door of hosts. But the two guys that we talked to with Mike and Nick, they were so fun. That was a great one.
And I've said this to you, off mic in private, but it was, I can't word this. Us asking people so many questions made us better at answering questions.
Right.
Learning how to conduct an interview made being interviewed a lot easier, and like gave us kind of a natural flow and give and response kind of thing. And that was,
right.
I feel that showed on their episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was, there were only a couple times where I was like, God, you idiot. Which I was expecting a lot more out of myself, but I managed to rein it in. And especially because, when I've already thought of two things that I want to hack out of this one, just from being an idiot. But that was a lot of fun. Alex, did you have any more?
No,
because I did have something that I wanted to get into, but I didn't want to cut off any sort of notes on.
No,
the past year.
I thought I had something, but I think I lost it in my heads. Thanks.
Well, we're inevitably going to come back to it because I do have. This is probably going to bring up some memories. I did in the hours and hours that Alex put into the recap. I start to feel guilty, and I'm like, man, what can I do? And this year, I went through the episodes over the last year, and I tried to put together some statistics. I worked very hard over this. It took me a very long time in about a half hour, and I put together some numbers that I thought were interesting, and they're probably only going to be interesting to Alex and me. But also, I might be looking for like maybe a quick educated guess, Alex, being that we've been doing this for 9 years now, and not counting this episode or last year's anniversary episode, I put together some numbers, which totals 23 episodes. This is technically, I guess you could say this is the 24th. So we did 2 a month. We held true. We did it. In terms of different guests, do you know how many different people we talked to that weren't us?
Huh. I'm going to say 23.
Close, because we did have a couple Justice episodes.
Mm-hmm.
We had at least 2 or 3.
We had some doubles.
We did. So in the end, in the 23 episodes, even including the Justice episodes, we talked to 29 different guests.
Huh. That's good.
Not necessarily new guests. Like, I'm counting Kyle and KT. Like, while they've been on the show and they're friends of ours, I'm counting them as a guest. But we talked to 29 different people that weren't us over the course of those 23 episodes. And like, this is also goes to credit how much work that you put into this. Just give me a ballpark. How many hours of content do you think we put out in those 23 episodes?
Oh, so I know a few went over and a few were under by like, if we're under by about 10 minutes. If we're over by at least 20 minutes.
Right.
That's all I can remember. So, let's say 27 hours.
Dude, you nailed it. We had 27.68 total hours of content, which if you equate it and do the math, by the way, doing math, maybe I'm just an idiot, but doing math on time sucks because it's not out of 100. It's
60s.
out of 60 seconds. So I found a conversion thing on the internet and plugged in all the different times over the 23 episodes that we did, which equates to 1 day, 3 hours, 40 minutes, and 50 seconds of content. So if you sat down and you listened to episode 400 or 401, and then you stopped at 423 with the Doomlings guys, it would take you one day, 3 hours, 40 minutes, and 50 seconds nonstop.
That's basically a
a
drive from here to Florida.
Exactly. You could get to Florida just with us, just with the last year of content, which if I'm going to pat myself on the back, it wasn't bad content. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine listens every now and then to episodes that I wouldn't think he would have any interest in, and he's like, "Hey, that was really cool." And I'm like, "Yeah, thanks, man." Average length of each episode. I'm not going to make you guess on this one, but the average length, we're at an hour and 12 minutes. So we finished on the plus. We weren't shorting. We typically go about an hour. We did have some long ones, some thick boys, but stats that really don't matter. File sizes for audio are real small. Real small, but we still managed to do 1.1 gigs of podcasting data this year.
Okay.
Bringing our grand total over the last 9 years up to 25.6 gigabytes of just us talking, which is nice.
Yeah.
Again, nobody cares about this, but I thought it was interesting.
Unless anyone wants to go back and listen to our past content. Like, there's 24 other gigs of content.
There are many gigs. And again, audio files are very small once they're exported. But it was a lot of work for me to right click on the file and then click properties. That was very difficult. The times said or
Oh boy.
It's incalculable. Unfortunately, I hit an infinite number. It's uncountable. You cannot count that.
I clipped a lot out of the medley too. To make it shorter.
Yeah. I try to hack our fillings and stuff like that out, but sometimes you just miss them. Like, you start to see what they look like.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's there's an I just what they look like, but you can't get all of them.
I've noticed I've done less.
The click, like the thinking click.
Yeah.
I just did it. I did it. But it's just one of those things. It's a filler. I cringe sometimes, especially you can tell when I'm not struggling, but like trying to sound smart.
Mm-hmm.
I do drop a lot. And I'm like, oh God, dude, stop. Because it's so subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, those are my quick stats. They took me very long to put together. I hope everyone enjoyed them. It looks like our shortest episode last year was 44 minutes and 37 seconds long.
I think we expected that to be a two-parter. And we never got
I believe that's correct,
the second guest.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we just kind of we ran with it. And then the longest one, 2 hour, that was a chonker. I believe that was the one with
the Halloween one?
Babs, and Kyle.
Okay.
Where we had to redo one of them.
Yeah.
Yep. And then it went off the road. We had like 2 entire episodes all in one when they were supposed to be like 40 minutes apiece.
I had to look up a thing that KT had said. Cause now I don't know if I put it in this clip. So KT was talking about Letterkenny and how some of the female characters are similar to a term used in media called the magical Negro. Was that in the clip? I don't remember now.
I don't think so.
Okay. So it's like the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, where your main protagonist is like a regular boring guy, but he meets this girl who's like, she's so free and carefree, and she's weird. She dances in the rain and shit like that.
Right.
And some of the characters in Letterkenny were she had made a comparison to that term of magical Negro, where it's a black person who appears on screen to help the main character along the way or realize their dream or achieve something. And I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, it's
everywhere.
Almost anything that, I can't think of his name now. Lucius Fox.
Morgan Freeman.
Almost anything Morgan Freeman has been in counts as that.
Right.
Queen's Gambit had her friend from the orphanage. When I thought back to Brendan Fraser movie where he made a deal with the devil and he went to jail and God was a black kid. Like, oh, this happens a lot. And I never attributed a term to it. And I learned. We learned a lot.
Yeah. Yep. I don't even know if I said it on air, but I said it to you a couple minutes ago, and I said it when we finished recording. She's great. She's really good at talking. She's funny as hell. She's also real smart. And I'm like, man, she's putting us all to shame, man. She needs her own show. Shouts to KT. That was a fun episode. Babs and KT were both a lot of fun to talk to. Even though I've seen all of 3 episodes of Letterkenny, it was still a good time. It was just one of those where I could sit back and just like kind of watch and just have you guys go at it. And that was a fun one.
I'm guilty.
Daniel Warren Johnson, the nicest guy.
After I edited his episode, I messaged you and I was like, he was such a cool dude.
Yep. That was kind of my friend who listens every now and then. He messaged me. He's like, you were you sound a little nervous. You were fanboying on that one. I was like, yes, absolutely, 100%. I thought I made that abundantly clear. But that was a lot of fun. That was, I don't even know how to put it. That was just a great episode. Great dude. Guy puts out great content. His next comic that he's working on right now is Beta Ray Bill.
Ooh.
I mean, come on.
That's fun.
Right? Like, he crushes it on Wonder Woman, and then he goes to Marvel, and now he's doing Beta Ray Bill, and like the stuff that he's been like teasing, and it looks dope already. So, big fan of him. That was a great episode. I can't thank him enough for coming on.
I've definitely become guilty of being my podcast guy, where I've learned so much over the years from everyone we've managed to talk to, and I go, oh yeah, well, I learned that from this person who was on my podcast, and I learned that from this person who I talked to on my podcast, and I've been like trying to rein it in, but now I feel like I'm not contributing anymore to like friends' conversations. Right. And I'm like, well, how do I stay important to my friends if I don't share this knowledge with them? And I'm like, no, just shut up. If they want it, they'll find it. Just they can ask me if they're actually interested. I don't have to beat them over the head with all these things that I've done.
Right.
It's rough trying to like having shame when everyone tells you shameless self-promotion.
Yeah, it's especially with your friends, because like it's like if you guys want to listen to it, you can. It's a fine line to walk, but just going over and looking again at the people we talked with, Adam Davis and Jared Kilmer with Game to Grow. That was I learned a lot about myself in that episode, and what it's like to be just in the presence of people who give a shit, and like it's hard to kind of put it, but man, that was it was like stressful in all the right ways. Like it's like, oh man, this is really important. I need to make sure we nail this.
Yeah.
Sarah Richard was a blast to talk with. And again, I'm not trying to like discount anyone else. Like I'm just scrolling quickly through our site, man. We talked with some rad people. And like just covering so many. And again, I could just flatter you, dude, because like the people that you find cover such a spectrum of everything. Ian in Studio Vibes, like he's making it just a creator studio. We've never talked about that before.
Nope.
We've never talked to composers and like with Christina Pepper, keeping busy during a pandemic, playing piano on YouTube. Like we talked to so many different people, so many different backgrounds, and it was fun, despite everything going on.
And we still got here with the helps of our friends.
Yep.
If like we've already said Brett's name, and John and Will joined us for one of the Halloween episodes. But again, if we didn't have Joe and Colin helping us out too, like we wouldn't have made it this far.
Yep, invaluable. I can't say thank you enough to everyone who's come on, everyone who's helped us in the past. It's I gush like this every year, but honestly, if it was just the two of us, it would just fizzled, whatever. But we have one more thing that we typically always get to in the recaps, in another little mini medley that Alex puts together. Being that it's just about time to sign off because we've been rambling and this is going to be a long one, but it's worth it. But it's kind of our way to pay homage to everyone who's come on the show over the past year. So we're gonna play this little mini montage and then we'll sign out. Thanks again for listening. This was a lot of fun. Alex, thank you again for putting those medleys together. Invaluable. I've said invaluable more times in the last 20 minutes than I have in the rest of my life.
You could say I've got some deep value.
You have, dude. You did it again. Go listen to our GME episode. It's incredibly outdated, even though it was only like a month ago. But that was a lot of fun. I've been pitching that to people as well. Like when people are like, "What's up with this GameStop stuff?" I got a podcast for you, dog. But you have the deepest value, dude. But anyways, here's our one last thank you to everyone who's come on the show in the past year. Anyways, that's gonna do it. Thank you for listening. Until next time, I've been JR.
I'm Alex.
I'm Mike.
Nailed it. That's all. That's it. That's it. That was the hardest part of the show.
I have been Adam Davis.
I have been and will remain Jared Kilmer.
And that's all we got for this episode. So for Kyle, KT, and Babs, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
I'm Ken.
I'm pretty sure I'm still Ian.
And I'm Jason Ginsburg.
And I'm Daniel Warren Johnson.
And I'm Brandon.
I'm Sarah Richards.
And thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, best of luck. Congratulations. Thank you again so much for coming on, Travis. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm Johnny.
I'm Mike. I'm Nick.
I'm Brett Kelly.
And I'm Will.
Thank you for participating, Ashley.
You're welcome.
Thank you for letting us in on this one.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you later.
See ya.
Okay, thank you for those delightful but also terrifying ideas, John.
You're welcome. And happy Halloween.
And I'm Len Nicholas.
And I'm Peter.
And I am Babs.
I'm Bradley.
And I'm Christina.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Justin.
All right. And with that, that's going to do it for the year 9 anniversary. Alex, thank you again. This was a lot of fun to reminisce and chuckle and laugh.
Well, thank you for.
We hope everyone
we could do this together.
Yeah, it's fun.
Separate but together.
Yeah, we made it work. The Yeti that my parents got me for Christmas in the second year that we were doing this, because they're like, "Oh, it's a microphone. You need that, right?" It's come in handy. Yeah, I stored it all these years, and man, it's come in handy. But we made it work. We did it. So I guess that's it. So for everyone who you just heard signing out, that's going to do it. Thank you again. Here's to next year. And until next time, I've been JR.
And I'm Alex.
And this has been episode 424 of Opinions May Vary. Hey everyone, if you liked that episode, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Opinions May Vary, and on Twitter and YouTube at OMV Podcast. You can also find us on Spotify or on our very own website at omvpodcast.com. And if you're looking for merch, we have stickers and pins available over at omvpodcast.bigcartel.com while supplies last. As always, thank you so much for listening. Let us know what you thought in the comments, and we will see you next time.